What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. It is the 6th day of January, and here we are sitting at about $94,000 with 9 hours left in the day. Hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here, and let's get into it. It's looking like we're really breaking out of this range. As far as price action is concerned, this actually really does look like a proper breakout, right? Here, we broke out of this quote unquote bear flag. And remember, everybody was calling for a bear flag. Everybody's calling for 60K, 70K, whatever this bear flag meant we would do. And we were very confident that this was not a bear flag breakout. We weren't breaking out because there was no volume, right? The day that we broke out here, there was no volume. We literally had like a third the volume that we had yesterday when we moved up here. Now, in all fairness, we don't have a lot of volume here on this breakout either. What made me sure that we weren't breaking out here was the volume. What's making me a little skeptical here that we're breaking out is the volume as well, right? We've had a slightly higher high, and the last time that we had a slightly higher high, we sold off. The time before that, we had a slightly higher high, we sold off, right? So might we sell off on the slightly higher high on principle alone? Maybe. But the fact of the matter is we are in this consolidation range still. At this point, it certainly looks like we've broken out, just like it looks like we broke out here, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of volume come in, right? We are seeing a little bit of growth. Technically, the volume is growing, but it's not, and it is more than what we saw before, which means it's more productive, it's more reliable, but I don't know if we're breaking out yet. And that makes sense. Of course we're not breaking out. Of course we're not breaking out because we're not in this pattern, whatever the hell this is, the trapezoid of truth and confusion. No, we're not in a trapezoid. I don't think that exists. I mean, maybe there's all kinds of patterns. Really, I think though, simply, it's just a horizontal pattern. I think we're in a horizontal channel. It's a very simple channel. It's a very common channel. Bitcoin loves its horizontal channels, right? Right here we had one, right there. You know, we were basically in one right here. We slipped out a little bit, and you can have slippage, but basically a horizontal channel there. You know, we had the same thing at the lows here. It was pretty damn horizontal, except a little slanted to be fair, but same kind of idea. I'm just saying, I don't think we're breaking out yet. It looks like we're breaking out. And that gets emotions going. That gets some FOMO going. Look at that. I'm talking smack when we're dropping $300 just because of that. No, that's not why. I have no control over the price of Bitcoin. Somebody literally theorized that I need to make only positive videos on Bitcoin because if I make negative videos, that'll impact the price. And it's like, dude, I have 50,000 subscribers. I don't have that much influence. Even if I had 1 million subscribers, I don't have that much influence. It's money. It's more than influence. It's money that pushes the prices around. Anyways, 93.6K right now and dropping. I want to look at the short-term stuff and see, are we going to pull back from here? Now, I don't think that we're going to see a dramatic pullback like we did the last couple of times, right? We saw some pretty quick pullbacks, but I do assume that we will probably consolidate in this area, maybe pull back to prior resistance to find support, and then move up. And when we break out of this range, when we move up here, that's when the volume should really come in. It doesn't need to be bigger than these levels here. We don't need to see like larger spikes in volume like this. It's great if we do, but we just need the volume to increase. That's all. It just needs to increase, right? Here it's decreasing. Here it's increasing, right? That's the difference. It's a subtle difference. It just needs to increase. That's all. Let's look at the short-term stuff and then we'll come back out. One last thought actually before we zoom in here. For a second, for a little while, throughout most of this range, I'd say since like mid or early December, we theorized, what if here, you know, we drop down. And you guys remember how many BART patterns were in the beginning of this pattern here in this whole consolidation phase. Less BARTs over here. I don't know why it's glitching out on me like this. Hold on. More BARTs over here, not so BARTy over here, right? Still manipulated price action either way. Still, we're getting boned either way. But the theory came back over here that maybe we're in the midst of a very large BART pattern in itself. BART patterns happen in times of low liquidity and low volume. Well, it's the holiday season. Ho, ho, ho. There is no liquidity and there is no volume. So when the volume comes back in, it has an easy time to move up. That's how BART patterns are formed, right? It's like forced selling pressure from a large entity. I wonder, does that sound familiar? Binance, Wintermute, hello? Does that sound familiar? Anybody? Large entities selling because there's low liquidity, low volume, so they can push the price down. They accumulate, and then whenever they're ready to pump the price up, low liquidity, low volume is in the market, so it's very easy to pump the price up. I mean, it's possible that this could be a BART pattern here, and that we do have an ease of access to these prices that are well above 100K. With that being said, the next target technically is that we go up to about like this 101, 103K area, but I'm very open to the idea of us going above there as well. We'll go over that later in this video, but let's look at the short-term stuff first, okay? 1 hour time frame. In other words, I'm kind of expecting that we'll move up faster than we moved down in November, right? One hour time frame here. I don't like it. I don't like the way the 1 hour looks. I mean, first off, let me rephrase that. The 1 hour looks awesome. It looks awesome. Right here, I don't like it. I don't like it because you made an attempt here. You made an attempt to move higher, and right now we've got 7 minutes left. It's a pretty big wick. You've sold off, okay? You made an attempt to move higher. You had good volume, but you sold off. It's kind of double top-esque, right? We've got this double top look here. I would say that that implies selling pressure, and we probably do come down. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to zero. Maybe it does. Well, hopefully we'll figure it out one way or another, but the RSI, very bullish overall, but you've broken trend, right? You've broken trend. You might be starting a new trend. The trend was higher lows. The trend was higher highs, right? For quite a while. That was a nice little trend. You're breaking out of it now, and perhaps now we are forming lower lows. Perhaps now we have lower highs, right? It could be some kind of downward trend here. And if we're looking at this just in this rough assumption here of this channel that we could be in, we might get oversold. It might be Thursday that we start to move up again. You know, you get down to these oversold areas, sometimes it takes time. You chill in these kind of areas, and then you form your uptrend. Maybe it's not until Sunday or Monday that we start to move up again. In these times here, just because you're not moving down, now you have a little bit of an uptrend, higher lows here, doesn't mean that the price is moving up. Whenever you're living below the 50 like this, you're typically moving down. So all I'm trying to say is, it is Tuesday. The next couple of days at this point might be bearish if we were to go to the oversold zone. We don't have to go to the oversold zone, but certainly the RSI to me looks a little bit bearish here. There's some bearish implications. So the stochastics have bearish implications as well. We likely get oversold. And the MACD is bullish overall, but come down, retest the zero, find support just below it like you did back here, or right at it, right? And then come back up. We look at the 4 hour time frame. The 4 hour, man, the 4 hour looks so strong. There's really no signs of weakness here at all. I mean, we look so strong. The only thing that I would say is, again, kind of in the essence of this like trend, maybe this trend, maybe I should take this here, take that low and bring it up here. Yeah, something like that. I like that a little bit more. You know, maybe these highs, something like this. We're in this. I like it. I like to try and see if there's any parallel channels. It's more common to see parallel channels, so look for that if you're ever drawing these. It's less common to see like a shift like this where it's not parallel. You know what I mean? Or it comes down like this. That does happen. We do have wedges, and you can probably identify some here even. But I'm just saying I like to draw it parallel. I feel like that oftentimes works best. Oftentimes doesn't mean always. Don't just be blind to it if you're doing analysis on your own. But be open-minded, or just be looking for this kind of parallel structure most of the time. It's uncanny how these highs are pretty parallel with this line here. I don't even have the line drawn the best. But all I'm trying to say here is we look really bullish. The 4 hour time frame looks really bullish. I don't see any reason why this would be a top that we could consider, right? The 1 hour time frame makes sense that it's a top, but the 1 hour is a smaller time frame, therefore it's a relative high. We move down. On the 4 hour, this is a very small amount of time. On the 1 hour, though, that's like that's a large amount of time. That's 4 times the size. And then we move up. This would not be considered a relative high if we were moving up from here, right? Like, we consider this a relative high, but we don't consider these relative highs. I mean, of course they are relative highs. Of course there's moments where we move up and we move down, but all I'm trying to say is you wouldn't say the move stopped here or here or here. It's not stopping here. It's going to continue. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. It's going to continue upwards, and we can see that here, I think, in the 4 hour RSI. And if that's true, we'll likely come down to the 50 area to bounce. We'll likely form a higher low to bounce, and then we'll move up. And we will see stronger readings in the RSI. Maybe we don't get stronger readings. Maybe we get a lower high, and then we get a higher high in the price, and we get bearish divergence, something like that. But I do assume that after we pull back to the 50 or thereabouts, we will move back up and likely see stronger readings than this. if we see stronger readings, this is the relative strength index, okay? This has been a pretty strong move so far, right? Whenever we got overbought here, we were doing some pretty good stuff. If we see stronger readings, relatively speaking, we should see a stronger move too. So the past 6 days have been phenomenal. Yesterday in specific was pretty good. But things are lining up to be even better, maybe over the weekend or next week. And I do want to point out too, this is something that's a little bit less of a known fact here for anybody who's watching, anybody that maybe this is your second bull cycle, maybe you've been in this for 3 cycles. This is my 3rd bull cycle personally. I've been in crypto since 2015. Maybe this is your 1st bull cycle. Maybe you've been in this longer than me and you haven't noticed this yourself. But every bull cycle I've been in, it's not that this is a 100% guarantee. This is not a sign always that this is going to happen, but oftentimes, and in fact, I think every time that we've been in very bullish phases of Bitcoin, where we're breaking out and we're being productive and we're moving up and we're leaving the market participants behind who sold out, who are sidelined, we didn't give them a chance to get in, the times where we just move up tenaciously and methodically without any remorse and we're just moving up, those times typically we see movement over the weekend. We see gaps left behind, right? Look back last cycle in the moments where after the COVID crash, we really started to move up from 20K to 60K or 20K to 50K or 40K, whatever that initial surge was. We left gaps behind all the way through, which means we were pumping over the weekends, and we can pump over the weekends. We've pumped through over the weekends this whole cycle. We've dumped over the weekends this whole cycle, but I'm not talking about small little differences. I'm talking about significant growth over the weekends. We typically see this in times where we are surging in price, where there is a little bit of life coming back, and things are kind of lining up for us to pump over the weekend. So just all of that together with this idea that we might be breaking out here, and when we move up to these areas or these areas, we will likely move faster than we did down. It just kind of makes sense that we might see that behavior take place again, where we move up over the weekends. It's not a guarantee. Don't get excited every time we move up over the weekends, but typically moving up over the weekend consistently, like back to back, that typically happens in these breakout moments, right? Like here, we moved up over the weekend this weekend, and we're continuing to move up here. It really reminds me of moments of, let's see, I don't know about this cycle. I mean, there's moments here. Look at this. Over the weekend, we were pumping here. Over the weekend, we were pumping here, right? In these moments where we were surging throughout this cycle. But it really reminds me, most recently, of the surge that we had here. Because over the weekend, we were pumping most of the time here. More than half of the weekends that we had, we were pumping in this kind of like phase here. And that's what it reminds me of. I'm not saying that we're going to do this, but I wouldn't be surprised if we were at the forefront of something similar to that, or maybe even bigger than that. We'll see. I really do think we're about to hit a very exciting point in the market, you guys. This was pathetic. this was pathetic here. This little run, that was the weakest run we've seen of the cycle. And that was still nice, right? From April 7th to July 14th, we went from 74K all the way up to 123K. That's a fine pace for me. I don't know about you, but that's a fine pace for me. I wouldn't be surprised if the pace that we see here coming out of this low, going up to new all-time highs, was faster than what we saw back here. That's all I'm trying to say there. 4-hour time frame coming back down. Looking at everything, hopefully, if I can. No bearish divergence on your MACD. Your oscillators are up high, so cool off a little bit maybe. Stochastics are overbought and they look great, but you can cool off still. The RSI looks great, but again, you can cool off, come down to the 50, find this higher low in this scheme here. You look great. The 4-hour, again, I want to finish off this segment with the 4-hour the same way that I started it. It says there's more to go. It says there is more to go, that this is not the relative high. But it also gives me the vibes that we're a little bit hot. Let's cool down. This is the 4-hour time frame. 6 candles is all it takes to form one day. So maybe we need 3 days to cool down. It's Tuesday. The rest of today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Maybe it's Thursday or Friday that we start to pump again or start to progress and move higher. Maybe we consolidate for 5 days. And then it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday that we start to pump again. I don't know. But I don't expect over the next 3 days, over the next 5 days, I don't expect that we're just going to do this. what I'm expecting more or less is this, is just choppy. I'm expecting some chop. Some chop, right? A little bit of chop. Not a rejection, or if it is a rejection, we'll have some intense volatility, which that'd be fun. But something more, maybe more like this, or like this, but with a little bit more volatility, like something like this, up in this area. That's what I'm expecting, and then we will break out and move higher. That's the expectation overall. And this should be a sign that we're going to break out and go higher, because right here, what did we do? We moved down. Right here, what did we do? We moved down. Right here, what did we do? We moved down immediately. We did come back up, but then we continued to move down, right? A little bit of a pivot there. It's a little bit different, but each of these times, more or less, you basically just move down. If we don't move down, if instead we're hanging out in these areas, that's something different than what we've done before, and something different is what we need, right? Daily time frame. RSI is in the overbought zone. That's great. Stochastics are as well. And the MACD is right at the zero. It's a perfect area to find some resistance. Again, when the MACD crosses above the zero, this is a starting point for good things to come. We crossed above the zero here. Was this move anywhere near being over? We're at 94K. Hell no. That move, from a time perspective, from April 7th, we found the low. It was April 23rd. We didn't top off until about July 14th. Or if you don't like that, we didn't top off until about a month later, right? That was after the cross. We didn't have a relative high where we consolidated for about a month after that cross. We're just starting to cross here. But we might find turbulence first. We might find some turbulence, and that's fine. It's actually very common to do. Cool off your stochastics, cool off the RSI, let the MACD consolidate for a bit, and then we'll break out. But soon enough, once we cross above the zero, which being that it's the 6th of January, I would assume we do cross above the zero line on the MACD by the end of this month, we should see some progress to the upside. Now, I would think that takes us well above 100K. If we're looking at this from the high to the low, we've interacted with our 382 area a few times. We haven't hit the line, but these are still interactions with this area nonetheless. I would think that from here we would have no problem moving up to the 0.5. But in all reality, I mean, there's a pretty solid chance that we just skip the 0.5. We skip this very obvious of resistance that people might be counting on to find a lower high in this kind of range, right? Prior support here, prior support here, prior resistance back here, all right at this level, prior support right there. Might be a reason why we find resistance there. With the way that we're coiled up in these fibs between the 382 and the 236, the way that we're doing this, in my experience, in my 10 years of doing technical analysis, typically in this kind of environment, you actually just push through to the golden ratio, typically. And with that, there's a chance that we could even push through the golden ratio and go up to the 786, 886 area. To me, I would say that is just as likely as stopping at the 0.5 would be. I know it's way higher, but statistically speaking, I think there's probably just as much of a chance. Right now, the most likely outcome is that we stop here. We stop right at about 106 to 110K, where there's resistance and support. Where there's support back here, resistance back here, support right there. Right, that's the golden ratio. That's where I expect that we're going to go. But time will tell. I think we'll move faster. Here's the deal. I think the markets are cautiously optimistic. They want to believe, but they've been so hurt. Market participants have been so hurt with this optimism because every single time that you're optimistic and things are getting good, boom, you drop. You get a slightly higher high, boom, you drop. Right? Same thing down here. Every time we got a slightly higher high, we drop. So I think people want to be optimistic, but they're cautious. And in environments like this, whenever people want to be optimistic, but they're not fully euphoric, they just don't accept it because they're traumatized more or less, we move up faster than expected. And that's exactly the same. This is the same rhetoric that I was saying down here, is that everybody was expecting when we pumped here, we'd pull back. They were still expecting that we'd go higher, we're going to break out, whatever, but we'd find a higher low and then we'd pull back. Maybe not everybody. Some people thought that we'd go lower, but the people who were bullish at least thought we'd get a higher low. We were saying we're not going to pull back, we're just going to keep moving up. And we said the same thing here. We're not going to pull back. We're just going to keep moving up. And we said the same thing here. We probably even said the same thing here. We thought we were going to just keep moving higher, but that's because we were expecting a stronger move. This was a kind of weaker move. I'm just trying to promote the same thought here, is that similar kind of environments, we have more fear here than we have throughout this whole cycle. More fear than this fear and greed index here has ever had in its history. And this one didn't come about until like 2023, I'm pretty sure. So it's not like the oldest fear and greed index. But still more fear than it's ever seen in its history, more fear than it's seen in this whole bull market. I would assume that we do move out of this faster than people expect. Right now, if you're looking at this as a bull or as a bear, if you're looking at this from whatever side, bullish or bearish, I think everybody's expecting that we'll break out of this, we'll find resistance there, and then we find a higher low, or there, that's our lower high, and we plummet. I think there's a lot of people expecting to find some significance here. And it's right there at 100K, psychological level of resistance. It might make sense, right? And it's because of that, because of all the attention that I think is being attracted here. I think that we're going to break through that level. We're going to leave it behind. We're going to move up faster than people expect. That's going to cause FOMO. And once that FOMO hits, when we're just above this line, that's actually the area that we're going to find resistance, where we found resistance before. Support, 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 some resistance, turbulence in this area, resistance right there, resistance right there. A much more significant level than 100K. We've said this throughout the whole time. It's not that 100K isn't respected or regarded in some degree. There is significance around this 100K level, but there's more significance below it and above it. And above it, 107.5K, that's a very significant level. And we look at that again, we take our all-time high, which is a pretty significant point to pull from, to our low that we've seen, the lowest low that we've seen since since April. That's a pretty significant point as well. That's right there in the heart of our golden ratio zone. It's right there in the heart. It makes so much sense to me, especially with the way that we've coiled up here. I really do think that we'll move up there, but time will tell. We'll see how it goes. I've got nothing else to say. I think I've said everything I need to say. January is shaping up to be a little bit more exciting than I gave it credit for, and that's fine. I still believe what I said in December, and what I've said throughout this month as well, is that February will be the month that's really going to be exciting. January is going to be great. It's our base to build from, but February is going to be where we let loose that goose, man. We're probably going to see some life really come in at the end of January as well. But until then, I got really nothing else to say, so hit the like button, subscribe, take care. I say until then. I will be saying things until then as well, but hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.